Alrighty then guys, what's going on, and welcome to another League of Legends video. My name is Black Salamander, and let's just get into the game and let me explain a couple of things for you guys. So on screen right now, or in a second anyway, you'll have the runes, the masteries, and the item build that I use, or that I will be using for Nasus in the very near future. So let me go over the actual marks, seals, glyphs, and quintessences that I use, as well as you already have seen the masteries and the item build. That needs no further explanation. But for the actual runes, I'll say that I'm using armor marks, I'm using scaling health per level seals, I'm using flat magic resist glyphs, as well as some AD quintessences. Now that's just what I prefer to use on Nasus. There's of course a more expensive but maybe just as good or probably better. It sort of depends the way you want to go with it. You can run the cooldown reduction quintessences along with the cooldown seals. That's flat cooldown, not scaling cooldown for the seals. And then same thing really, armor marks and flat magic resist glyphs. Now basically here's how this game is gonna go down. I'm playing against Yasuo in the top lane. You know, as always, it's a more aggressive auto attack based champion, so you're gonna pick your W second as opposed to the E, because you don't need that much armor shred against the Yasuo anyway. Now you'll see what I'm doing in this little scenario right here. The whole point is that I don't really want the tower to speed up kills on minions. So you see that line that I've drawn on the screen? That's sort of the line that I want the minions to form. So I'm basically using my own body to block the minions. As you'll see in a second, the tower starts taking shots at things, so I need to be, I kill them, I take aggro from the minions, and then I pull them back into this line. You'll see me do this several times you'll see me tank the minions for a couple of seconds until my minions show up, and then they form that solid wall in between so that they stop pushing. The thing is, with Nasus, early game, when you don't have the cooldown reduction, when you don't have the levels and damage onto your Q, you want to keep the minions away from the tower. Now I know there's a lot of people that say that farming on the tower with Nasus is easy, and yes, it is easy, but at the same time it's a lot harder to actually pull off farming every single minion, or as much minions as you possibly can, because what the tower does is that it does continuously auto attack any minions that do get into that range, and unfortunately you will lose out on it. So that's why I tend to body block the minions, because as Nasus you have your passive along with the masteries that I'm running. They basically give me percentage health every couple of seconds back, and it is massive. It will basically mean that I do not have to really worry about taking minion damage or taking poke from the enemy laner, because I'm very easily able to make all that back. Now you'll see me just then do it again, and you'll see it just in a second here as well. I'm keeping the minions here in this little line close to the wall. Even if it means I have to take a bit of harassment and aggro, it's worth it, because with Nasus, like I said, it's all about slowing down the gameplay to the pace that you want. If you want to play Nasus properly, it's very important that you control the pace of the fights, of the minions, of everything. You want to have full control over your lane. You want to decide when you want to go a bit more aggressive, when you want to show them that, hey, don't push me around because I'm going to push back. You want to decide when you want to go in for a kill, and you need to be very vocal about things with your team. For example, when that Warwick came in the first time, as you could see, it ended up in me getting a kill on the Yasuo, but then because the Master Yi came in to counter gank, I ended up dying. So the second time when the Warwick shows up, I'm going to tell him, look, just back off, I don't need the help, I don't want the lane to get pushed, so just let me handle it. And he does, he listens to me, which is very good. If, for example, let's just say that you don't have the fortunate situation where the jungler is going to listen to you, or is going to want to cooperate with you for whatever reason, whether it's because he was getting a bit tilted, or he just saw you make a bad call and doesn't trust your judgment in the next situation, if he's pushing, then let him do it on his own, because eventually he's going to have to back off. And when he backs off, you let the wave push back again, you let the enemy laner push you back, and then you continue to freeze the lane in this very position where I am right now. So that's pretty much what I kind of have to say about the laning phase. You're building your items, you're trying to stack your Q as much as you possibly can. Of course, every now and again, if you do want to harass the enemy laner and do some damage, you can decide to forgo a couple of stacks to deal some damage to him. I wouldn't recommend you do this before 100 stacks very much, and even then I wouldn't make it a habit, because the more you use your Q to fight, the less you can stack. Now, see here, I go for a fight, but I completely forgot this Soraka was a thing, and that heal completely saved him. If that heal did not come in, he would have been dead. Now, it's kind of unfortunate that she did get a chance to pay attention, and she did kind of smite me down, I guess you could say. But at the end of the day, guys, it's not going to be a huge thing, because a setback like this for Nasus isn't really too much of a problem. Now, you'll see it right here. Warwick comes in to push my lane in, and then I tell him to back off because I don't want it to get pushed, and then I just TP back into lane, keep getting my stacks, and then, see, here's the thing. This Yasuo is at a point in the game where he cannot do anything to stop me. I can all-in him very easily, so that is just what I'm going to do here in a second. You'll see how he's sort of going in way too close to me, so I take that opportunity to Q him in the face, slow him down a bit. I dodge his tornado, and then since he's not really backing off, wait, is it here or is it somewhere else? I know I pop my ultimate on the tower and I go and kill him, and then I back away from the tower to stop taking damage, and I just go in and smash the tower down. Yep, there we go, here. So I'm gonna pop my ultimate, boom, smash him in the face, walk away from the tower, continue to kill minions, continue to get my Q stacked up. And then we're just going to go and bash down the tower, because Yasuo is not here. He already used this teleporter a little while ago. It's basically a really safe thing to just, you know, smash this thing down. Now, obviously, if you do kill a tower with your Q, you will get the stacks. But in some games, like in a game like this, where I'm not saying that my team was doing badly, because my team was actually doing pretty alright. But in situations where their team is quite strong, as you'll see, their team is quite the pain. And that's, I'll be honest, that's all down to Soraka. If Soraka wasn't in this game would have been much, much easier. And that brings me to, I suppose, one of the other points that I can get to. Honestly, guys, ban Soraka as much as you possibly can. Like, this bitch needs to get banned 50% of the time or more, because she can really turn the tide of a game. Now, if you take a champion like now here I kind of fail, because they have CC and they're kind of fast, they have shields, so they just kited me around and managed to survive. Now, see, this is the thing, they were quite fed at this point. The Lux at the end of the game ends up being something like 20 and 5, 20 and... She has over 20 kills and she has less than 10 deaths. Now, that's kind of bad, if you ask me. And let me take a second to drink, because my voice is getting a bit raspy. Okay, there we go. So continuing with what I was saying before, the whole idea is that this game was more of a tank Nasus game. As you'll notice, I wasn't using the same build that I would recommend to use on average games. You'll see I didn't build a Triforce, and I just went straight for the Iceborne Gauntlet. Now, granted, you do lose on stacks, you do lose on a couple of things, but at the end of the day, I wanted to get that armor, the mana, the cooldown reduction. I wanted to get everything in one item. Basically, instead of getting the Triforce and the Frozen Heart, I decided to get one item. It's actually, well, it is weaker than the other ones, so it doesn't give you as much as those two items, but it does have the benefit of being one item instead of being two items, which is kind of what I needed. You know, I didn't want to spend too much gold getting two items, because if you think about it, Frozen Heart and Iceborne Gauntlet have about the same cost, but when you factor in how expensive Triforce is, then yeah, you kind of see why I would have decided to not do it. Just go for one item and then build full tank. Because not only did I need the Mercury Treads to get a bit more tenacity, I have tenacity from my masteries, so they stack. But I basically just needed the tankiness, and I couldn't afford one tanky item and one offensive item. I just wanted one offensive tank. Excuse me. I wanted one offensive and tanky item in one, which is why I ended up going for the Iceborne Gauntlet. It's not exactly the recommended choice, it's more of a situational item, and in this situation I just deemed it was a good idea to go ahead and do that. Because, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where their team was quite annoying, which is why you'll see me end up building a Thornmail to minimize what the Master Yi could do to me before he ended up dying. Because here's the thing, if you let a Master Yi just wail on you, then well, you're gonna have a bad day basically. So using your W on him, building Thornmail to bounce back his auto attacks, all of that will help. And yeah, I mean, as you can see, I basically just Shrek them and I get a double kill. Because they try and fight me more than they probably should have. But here's the thing, here's the funny thing about this game. I don't want to, blame my team and then at the same time, give them... here's the thing, I want to give them credit because it was a fun game. They weren't flaming me. They weren't doing anything like that. Now, granted, they didn't have much reason to. They were saying at certain points in the game, don't do that or don't do this. But when it comes to me, when it comes to how I play Nasus, I'm pushing top lane 24/7. Now, while I'm doing that, as you've seen already in this game, quite a few times, a lot of the enemy team has to come into top lane to be able to deal with me. And even then, I managed to get a double kill when they 2v1'd me. So that is when the rest of the team should capitalize on the fact that they need a lot of attention to deal with a fed stacked Nasus. So when I was seeing that they were complaining about me dying, but they weren't doing anything. One was bot lane, a couple were in the jungle, one was mid lane. They weren't putting enough pressure on a different part of the map to make it worth it. So what I was doing was, in the end, a step down to what should have been happening, simply because my team wasn't applying the correct pressure in the correct spots. That's why you'll end up seeing me later in the game trying to group more with them, because that proved to be more successful than trying to go at it on my own, because it wasn't doing much for me. Now, this is kind of what I'm doing right now, because I see the Jinx. I knew she was sort of hovering around in the jungle in a very dangerous position for her. She was off position. Now I'm kind of sad that Master Yi got a counter kill, because I actually could have killed him. The problem was I didn't have enough HP, so it was the kind of situation where I could have killed him, but I couldn't quite kill him, so I ended up dying as well. The only problem is that Nasus has no way of escaping from Master Yi. He's so much faster on a base movement speed level, let alone factoring in his ultimate, factoring the fact that he has a gap closer with his Q, with his Alpha Strike. So it was the kind of situation where you just didn't really have much of a chance to escape, so turning around and trying to fight him was the best option, but it didn't end up working out quite that well. It's alright though. Now they do manage, they back off, which was the smart thing to be doing. Basically you'll see them at one point in the game, they almost actually do win the game. They managed to get both of our Nexus towers, and they were already bashing on the Nexus, but because they saw that my timer was almost out, they decide to back off. Now granted, if they did stay, I don't know if they would have died before they managed to finish the game, but I think they actually could have finished the game at one point, which I know would have made me sad, because I was trying my hardest to win this game. I suppose I should cover at this point what my mentality was coming from the game before this game. Before this game, I played a Xin Zhao in the jungle, and unfortunately I had a team where basically everybody else minus the Nasus. See, because in the last game there was a Nasus in top lane, and then considering what happened last game, I decided that I need a champion where I can get as much personal power in one champion to not really have to worry too much about my team. So that's why I decided to pick a champion that can basically scale infinitely with Nasus's Q. And not only that, but like I said, I used to play Nasus almost every single game back in Season 4. In Season 5, I haven't played him as much because I was focusing on different champions. I was focusing on different mechanics. I was focusing on mastering different champions, different playstyles, different lanes. I was basically getting up my other lanes and my other gameplay on par with my sort of like Nasus jungling gameplay sometimes. So this last season was more of a balancing season for me rather than just me trying to continue doing what I was doing before. I just felt like I needed to change a couple of things about the way I play and the way I think about League of Legends. But that doesn't really have anything to do with this right here. So as we're going to continue talking about the past game, it was a jungle game, like I said, with Zhao, and basically there was 3 people that were constantly, and I mean every 2 seconds, they were constantly fighting about things, which made it a huge pain to be able to do anything, because when people spend more time arguing and pointing out the mistakes of other players on their team, they tend to play a lot worse. But not only that, but I'll be very honest, it's very hard to go out of a game like that and try and assume that the people that you're playing with right now are any different. Because when you go into a crowd of people, you don't see individuals, you just see a crowd of people. So if you go into a crowd and then you get people that act and talk in a certain way, you'll expect the majority of people to act and talk the same way, because that's just how, I don't know if everybody's mind works like that, but mine definitely does. So it's a kind of situation where it is unfortunate, it really is, but there's not much that we can do about it. So there's not much that I can do about it, and I kind of feel bad for it, because this team deserved much more of the benefit of the doubt than I actually ended up giving them. I started the game saying that yes, I will be playing this as, you know, I'll give it my all, and I just failed there. I basically flashed and then I queued, but instead of queuing Soraka, see, this is the thing with Nasus. Sometimes if you don't have quite enough range, or if the target dies just as you're about to queue, the queue will switch targets and it will hit something else. It is unfortunate, but it does happen every now and again. So that's just what ended up happening in that specific situation. But anyway, back to the story. This team deserved the benefit of the doubt, but because of my mentality from the last game, I wouldn't say that I was tilted because of it, but I wasn't in a very cooperative state of mind, because I was so focused on my farm, I was so focused on the pushing and the taking of objectives, that I didn't really want to even bother to see what the team was doing. You'll see how I play in other games and how I played in this game. It's not just because I'm playing Nasus, but in general I just decided to ignore what was happening in other lanes, because I needed to focus on my own game, which isn't always a good idea. But I would say that if you're somebody that's like me, that if you go into a bad game and then you're not having success that particular day, what I would suggest you do is just try and basically pick a champion or go into a specific role and just focus on what you have to do. If you have to mute the entire team before the game even starts, just do it. Do whatever you need to do to get yourself into a comfortable state of mind where you can focus yourself on what you need to do to win that game. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what everybody else in the lobby wants to do, it matters what you want to do. It matters what your goal is. If your goal is to get stacks and if your goal is to win that game, that is the only thing that will actually legitimately matter to you as an individual. To a team, the team composition and the team gameplay does matter, but if every individual is giving their best, then they're not really genuinely going to complain about much, even if you're not talking. Let's just be fair about that. There's a lot of people that play this game that don't talk, but that they do carry their weight. They do put in the good work that they need to do. And see, this is the unfortunate thing. I just cannot kill that Soraka. This is why I actually legitimately give this as a piece of advice. Genuine, just this is what I think. Soraka either needs to get nerfed or she needs to get banned in ranked a lot more than she does, because this Soraka was a pain in my ass the entire game. But we did manage to pull it off in the end. We did win, and hopefully you guys did enjoy this gameplay. I will see you next time with some more League of Legends. Have a good day, guys. As always, see you next time.